This is a TalkStation original podcast.
On this week's episode of the Paper Boys podcast, Zach and I talked to former ECU special teams standout and new Carteret County News-Times reporter Maceo Donald. We talk about his journey from player to the press, and then we predict each high school football team's record for the season. It all starts right now on the Paper Boys podcast. Hello and welcome to the Paper Boys podcast. I'm JJ Smith.
And I'm Zach Nally.
We're joined as always by our producer Ross Caraway. We're also joined by our guest, former East Carteret star Maceo Donald.
Good morning.
Maceo is doing something new and exciting these days. Tell us what you're up to.
Yeah, so I've been riding with you guys, hanging out with you guys for a little bit now, and just getting shown the ropes here at the News Times, and just trying to really get my feet wet a little bit.
He gave us a shout out on Twitter this morning.
Uh-oh.
JJ Smith and Zach Nally for our mentorship. And I
Oh,
thought, wow,
goodness. That's.
we apologize in advance.
I don't think I'm old enough to be a mentor.
So when did you think you wanted to start going into journalism?
That probably started my freshman or sophomore year of college, really. I used to want to do like education, and I said no, and then I thought I wanted to coach, and their schedule's too much, so I kind of wanted to stay in sports by any means necessary. So I decided to, kind of reporting and talking about sports is what I wanted to do.
I remember back in the day when I would interview Maceo when he was at East Carolina, where he went on to star on special teams, and he would tell me that he wanted to get into journalism, and I'd just be like, no, don't do it.
Well, it's funny. We see a lot of high schoolers when they leave, they want to stay in the world of sports, and sometimes that doesn't always work out. When you go to college, you end up studying something else, or it doesn't work out. But I don't blame you. I mean, what age did you start playing sports?
I mean, I had to be probably 4 or 5 playing flag football with TC O'Neill in Beaufort and AFYL, and just kind of came from there playing basketball. My dad actually used to coach in Beaufort when I was probably 5 for the older guys and for just rec ball and everything. So I just started being around, and they actually let me play early because Miss Debbie over at East Carteret, she used to teach out there in the front office, just let me run around with the ball because she thought I was so fast. So that's kind of how I really started, and just going up, trying to do everything I could do, really staying outside with my friend Jordan. We just spent all summers together just being outside and playing basketball, tackle football with no pads, that kind of thing.
So you're playing sports from 5 to 18 when you graduate high school, and most of the time you're just expected to just stop. I mean, maybe you join a intramural league or something like that, but for the most part, most high school athletes who have been playing for over a decade, they just stop and they never play that sport again. So I don't blame people for not only wanting to go play in college, but to still be around something that has been important to them for their entire lives.
Yeah, definitely. Well, for me, you take it so seriously, and you really don't see like a time after the sport, to be honest. You always kind of see the sport and don't really think about, well, I'm not playing or I could not be playing. So it was always really a goal just to play in college for something. It used to be basketball, then I stopped growing. But so then it kind of transferred to football, and just kind of seeing that opportunity there to get my school paid for.
Kind of a surprise that you're here working at the News Times right now. There was a time just a few months ago where you probably thought you were going to be playing football this year, right?
Yeah, definitely. It was kind of a quick transition, and you can't really just stay on it and be in that moment for too long. So it was really a quick transition, and just tried to meet some people and kind of get some advice about the next steps for me. But I still could have been in a uniform this year. I don't know if my body would hold up at this point. I'd be a six-year senior. But I'm happy I'm here. I'm glad I'm doing what I'm doing now.
You've been at East Carolina for 5 years, is that right?
Yeah, 5 seasons.
And you had entered the transfer portal. You had been a special teams player just about every year, and you were looking to get more involved in some offense.
Yeah, definitely. That was exactly what it was. My group I kind of came in with in 2018, we were all gone. We were all fifth-year guys at that point. So a few of us still had 6 years if we redshirted a year. But that was pretty much the whole thing, just trying to find a place where I could play, and I felt like it wasn't, a waste of my time going there at the same time. But unfortunately, that didn't work out how I thought it would, so I kind of had to just transition into, being an adult, which I never thought I'd really say. But it's been a smooth transition, and, I've just been trying to get my feet wet in the media industry and just reporting and writing and brushing up on my writing especially.
Did you do some writing in college?
Yeah, I wrote for the East Carolinian at ECU for maybe a year and a half, 2 years. I had to stop because of football. I just got so busy. But I wrote for 2 years in the middle of that COVID era. So most of our sports were kind of dying down, and it wasn't too much to write about, or we were writing about the same thing.
Oh, we know how that
over
was.
and over, yeah. So it was fun, though. I learned a lot, and I met a lot of good people at the school, and the editor who was there at the time kind of gave me my opportunity. So it was really fun.
Was it weird being an athlete at the same time as writing about sports?
Not really. It's just, especially at ECU being a football school, everyone just asks you about the team all the time, or kind of how things were.
So you're used to kind of self-reporting yourself. Yeah.
Or just about certain players, or even, it's a local area. So a lot of our recruits came from the Greenville area, maybe Raleigh. So people at the school knew him personally, maybe from high school or things like that. But it was really fun. You just got asked a lot about football all the time. And that was my only rule when I got the job, was I can't talk or write about football at all because of conflict of interest, I guess.
People think you transfer from a school, you've got some bad feelings about that school, but you were very clear at the time. You had no ill will towards East Carolina.
No, never. I came in and we were really bad. We were 3-9. Then I think we were about 4-8. Then another 3-8 or something like that. So I mean, we kind of really saw the program change, and it was a lot of the seniors that I came with. Holton Ahlers, who was at the Seattle. Who are they?
Seahawks.
Yeah, the Seattle Seahawks right now, and he was the quarterback, and we had a lot of other seniors that kind of paved the way and were big leaders on the team. So we all kind of felt like the job was done, so to say, for us, and I felt like it was a good time to try to move on and find different things. But Coach Houston he told me I could come back on the team if I wanted to, which he doesn't do a lot. And most of the time, if you say you're hitting the portal trying to find a new home, then they're like, all right, just go. So I got a lot of respect for Coach Houston for that.
I mean, ECU, it's a Division I football program. That's big time, and we don't see a lot of that from this county. How did that journey? I mean, I know, from what I remember when you graduated, it was a walk-on situation, right? And so, how did you get connected with ECU from the beginning?
Well, like you said, it was a walk-on opportunity. But before that, I was committed to Elon for like 4 months, and they took my scholarship on my 18th birthday. Actually, January 5th, 2018. They took my scholarship because they had a better season than they thought they would. So they thought they could get better talent, quote unquote. So I kind of had to start all over. And that was the first year we had her early signing day. So that was in December. Then January that happened. And February was like the last day to sign, like early February. So I had a few weeks to kind of just figure out what was going on. I started applying to school for being like a normal student. I know that kind of sounded bad, but I never thought I would be just a normal student or not be able to play sports at the collegiate level. So I just kind of was reaching out to coaches, and Coach Frazier at East was reaching out to people. Coach King at Havelock right now was reaching out to people for me. So I just got a call one day by Keith Gaither. He was the receivers coach, and he just kind of asked me what my story was and what had happened with Elon. And he was just saying, you have a walk-on spot here, and we have pretty good history with walk-ons. Justin Hardy was a walk-on and played in the NFL for a while, and he's in the Canadian League now. So they have a pretty good history of walk-ons. And even my roommate, Tyler Sneed, he was a walk-on and had a really good career and ended up playing with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he's in Canada right now. So they kind of have a pretty good history of, bringing walk-ons in and giving them a real opportunity. So that was kind of my thought process, and it wasn't far from home, so I knew my parents could be at pretty much every game.
You'd been at ECU for 3 years, and y'all were doing a intra-squad scrimmage. Say that 5 times fast. And they put a video on social media that kind of blew up where they offered you a scholarship. What was that day like?
Yeah, it was crazy because usually that's how Coach Houston does it when he gives people scholarships. It's usually like that last day of camp or the last scrimmage. So I was kind of expecting it because I knew I had a really good camp that year, and I felt like I was kind of next in line for it. And we've had pretty good conversations leading up to it and during camp. So I was kind of expecting it. And I was almost kind of mad because it was getting towards the end where we break it down and kind of just disperse and everything. And he hadn't said anything yet. So I was kind of like, okay, like I'm going to have to go talk to him after practice and, kind of tell him what's up. But it was literally like the last thing he said. So I was really excited, and my teammates were really excited for me as well because I'd been part of the program for a while then. And, it's really hard, especially being a walk-on. You have a lot of hurdles to get over, and just kind of you don't get the same opportunity as some scholarship guys. So it was a really big deal for me, and my teammates were all happy for me, and it really was up from there. So
Who was the first person you called when you got told?
I don't think I called anybody. My parents were there.
Okay.
It was the last scrimmage, so we usually do a scrimmage on every Saturday in camp. So they had one this past Saturday.
But that was nice news to bring out to them.
Yeah, so they didn't know what was going on because they couldn't hear it from the stands. But they kind of saw everyone was surrounding me. I guess they kind of figured out what it was when I eventually got to talk to them when we kind of went our separate ways. But it was a really good feeling, and, I really love ECU, and I miss my time there for sure.
Well, we could probably – I've been here 10 years. JD's been here for 15 years. And we could probably count on two hands the number of people – me, one hand – the number of people who get to the Division I football level. And it's so rare to not only reach that level, but to go all 4 years and graduate with a degree. Now, you didn't just graduate with a bachelor's degree, though. Am I right?
Yeah, I got my master's also.
Okay, what'd you get your bachelor's in?
Journalism was my bachelor's, and master's in sports management.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I don't. There's so few stories like that where you go the distance and you feel like your experience at ECU did it all work out the way it was supposed to?
No and yes. It is a Division I sport, so a lot of decisions are made, without the players. We got different coaches during my time there, and a lot of things like that you can't really control, but you just have to learn how to roll with the punches and everything. And it was still fun for me, and I met a lot of people there and a lot of friends, so I would overall say it's a good experience.
Yeah.
You mentioned Coach Houston and your relationship with him. It was a good one.
Yeah, it was pretty good. When you get a new coach and you're trying to do a culture change, that's a lot. So he's trying to get you out of the bad habits that you were in. But after that, you kind of really respect Coach Houston for it and what he did, and we eventually became a winning program. So, we got nothing but love and respect for him, and we do have a good relationship, and I'll be seeing him a lot this fall.
Let's take a quick break, and we'll come back and talk more with Maceo.
It's all about the kids this Saturday, August 19th at Carteret County Speedway. Racing in 6 divisions from late models to junior mini cups. Kids, bring your bikes and helmets to compete in the kids' bike races and Power Wheel push cars. Tickets just $15. Kids 10 and under, free. Military discount with proper ID. VIP seats, trackside spots, camping, and Moonshiners Restaurant. All at Carteret County Speedway. Kids Night this Saturday. Green flag drops at 6. Details on Facebook and tickets at CarteretSpeedway.com.
Hi, my name is BJ Frazier, head football coach at East Carteret High School, and you're listening to the Paper Boys Podcast.
We're back talking with former East Carteret star and East Carolina special teams standout Maceo Donald. Maceo was talking about how his first few years in Greenville, not amazing record-wise. He was a part of a big turnaround after failing to produce a winning season for 6 straight years from 2015 to 2020. The Pirates went 15-10 over the last 2 years that Maceo was there. Last year being the most special, went 8-5, won the first ball game since 2013, beat Coastal Carolina 53-29 in the Birmingham Bowl. I'm assuming that final year was your favorite year.
Yeah, these last 2 years were probably, football-wise, were probably my favorite years. My freshman year was probably the funnest year just because everything's new and it's new experiences and a bunch of new people. But these last 2 years for sure have been the best football years and some of the funnest times I've had for sure.
And you got to see, like you say, a culture change right up front, seeing a coach coming in, Mike Houston, who turned it around.
Yeah, it was definitely different. You don't know what to expect when you get a new coach. He doesn't know you. You don't know him really unless you were recruited by him, in high school. But it was definitely a process, and we had to work through a lot of kinks, and we eventually got there. 2021, we had a good year, became bowl eligible, and strung together a few games, late in the season, which is really when you have to win.
Maceo played in 34 career games, logged over 250 special team snaps, had a long career at ECU. What's some of the top 2 or 3 highlights you recall during your time?
I just have to say, the first one, my freshman year we beat Carolina, the second game of the season after we lost to North Carolina A&T, which was weird. That's the kind of team we were. We'd be up and down a little bit. But we beat them game 2, and that was a crazy experience. We had probably around 60,000 people in the stands there at ECU. So that was a really big win, home win for us. The second, probably BYU this past season. I had never been all the way out there to Utah, but their fans and stadium was insane. They had probably one of the best, halftime and going into the fourth quarter performances I've ever seen in a college football stadium. They had a lot of fire going on, a lot of dancing, but it was really cool. Their fans were very, very nice. They treated us really well, had great hospitality. And the third one, It'll probably be a toss-up maybe between UCF and, our home games at ECU, those night blackout games. But at UCF, they have a pretty cool stadium. It's called the Bounce House because it's actual bleachers like you're in high school again. So it kind of echoes the sound around. So it was probably one of the loudest stadiums I've been in, especially when they're ranked, top 15 in the country. And at Dowdy Fick, you can't get better than that for sure.
What's life like as a Division I football player? Everybody talks about how it's a full-time job.
Yeah, it definitely is. And, I've missed Thanksgiving. I haven't had Thanksgiving since 2017 Thanksgiving. I haven't had a Christmas these last two Christmases. So, you definitely aren't around your family as much. You don't get to go out on the boat during summertime as much. But it's really worth it, and you kind of get used to the schedule, and it kind of prepares you for things, after football and after you're a college student and you really got to grow up and get into the world. But you're with your teammates all the time. You're with your coaches a lot. You really just get close, which is the most important thing about, playing on a team. You're just your bond and your ability to trust one another. But the schedule was, it wasn't easy. You got used to it, and it was really worth it once we eventually started winning games. So,
well, I just want to chat about East Carteret for a second. And before you were in purple and gold, you were in, what is it, blue and yellow? Yeah. Navy and yellow, or powder blue and yellow. I love those powder blues. The last year you were there, BJ Frazier was starting his career there. He's in his 7th year now, and I think so that was 2017, your last year. You guys come off a 7-5 record, and then in 2016 you were with Caleb King. In 2015 you were with Caleb King, where the teams made 2 pretty deep playoff runs. What's the lingering memory of your time with East Carteret?
Losing to Tarboro at home in the playoffs that 2016 year. We thought we were going to win the whole thing that year, honestly. We had a pretty, stacked team. And the next year, that Lakewood loss in the playoffs is a lingering memory for sure because, we kind of came back in the game. I think it was probably like 40-something or 40-something final score. But we had came back, in the fourth quarter, and they had scored to kind of be down by 1 point, and they went for 2, and we just knew we weren't going to stop them already, before they even snapped the ball, and it was pretty much a game after that. They got the 2 points and won by 1 point.
That game went to overtime.
Yeah, we pretty much knew we were going to lose once they said they were going for it and didn't kick a field goal. So we hadn't stopped their run game all night, so that's one thing that kind of lingers with me. But definitely the losses more than the wins.
I was going to say Maceo's a true athlete. He's 7 years later, he's still thinking about losses.
Yeah, sometimes those stick with you.
Yeah.
That's funny you mentioned that. So that's probably a game you covered with Lakewood, and I'm looking at this. You guys scored 19 points in the fourth quarter. You'd think you'd had the momentum, but sometimes in games, like you said, you just feel it switch, and it's almost like you can't do anything against that. And that the year before when you guys went to Tarboro, now I know that's a game JJ covered. That was a difficult game. Caleb King is a very smart, capable coach, and sometimes you got to roll the dice and make decisions in games. And I know that was a tough one for everyone. What made that game so lingering in memory?
I think because we just felt like we could win. It wasn't one of those, times where the lesser team kind of came to play that day and, you have the chance of a lifetime to beat a really good team. We've just felt, honestly, that we were probably the better team, or we matched up with them pretty evenly. So we thought we could win the game. We thought we could win the next 2 games, the regional final and the state championship. We thought we could win all those games. But, we weren't mad that we were going for it, I don't think. And at that time, we felt like we could win. We felt like, we were the better team. But, that didn't work out for us. But I did score the only touchdown for us that game.
Did you?
I'm good with that.
Well, it's hard because you're a 1A program still at that point. So you're playing a very tilted schedule, especially in the playoffs. I mean, you come first round, you beat Rosewood 85-0. First 2 games, it's 141-0. Those combined between Rosewood and Gates County, and then you come into Tarboro where 20 points are scored the whole game, and it's just a defensive slug it, knock it out type of game, and got to go for it and fourth down a couple times. It doesn't work out, and I know you guys were disappointed, especially the year before, having made it to the deep in the playoffs and then losing to Wallace Rose Hill, and but that's just that's sports. Only one team makes it, right? And still kind of cool in that time to be able to play on a team where you have that feeling like you could win it.
Yeah.
Not everybody gets that here in Carteret County at football.
Yeah, definitely. It wasn't always like that. First year we definitely didn't. No one really even cared about football. Everyone was focused on basketball. But I do give a lot of credit to Caleb King for kind of changing that program and wanting people to play sports again and play football again specifically. But, it was definitely good for us, and I think you learned a lot even in the losses, the same as the wins. So
that's another program where you saw a culture change. Mike Houston and Caleb King, he comes in at East, and they struggle for years and years, and all of a sudden you're winning 11 and 12 games and going, people are talking about you all state championship contenders.
Yeah, I mean, we all thought it. We had a pretty good team. We had a great defense. We didn't get scored on for like 2 months straight. We didn't have anyone score on us. We were like those numbers you said on offense, had a really explosive offense with Sean Johnson, Malik Collins, Jacoby Simmons, Bo Studebaker, and myself. So we had a pretty good, offense and defense. So we didn't, we were feeling pretty good, and we had those 2 really good wins in the first 2 rounds of the playoffs. So I mean, we thought we could go all the way for sure. I remember, planning already where we were at. I think it was going to be at Duke that year for 1A. So we were already kind of planning going there and everything. So
you were 5'8", 160 in high school?
I was probably something like that.
So you probably didn't have gigantic goals that you were going to do these amazing things at that height and weight, right?
No, I mean, I thought I was going to keep growing, to be honest with you. But, I wasn't really good at football. I was good at football as fast, but when we first started playing, tackle football, probably, sometime in elementary school or something like that, I sucked because I didn't want to get hit. But kind of, middle school, I got bigger and maybe some confidence in my size a little bit. So I kind of played with that confidence and everything. So, I always felt I could go out there and perform with anybody. And I always felt like when you needed a explosive play or a touchdown, you could come to me.
It didn't hold Maceo back, that 5'8", 160. He goes over 1,000 all-purpose yards 3 years in a row, goes over double-digit touchdowns 3 years in a row. And when he leads East Carteret, as far as they're concerned, the stat book, he leads them in catches, in receiving yards, in receiving touchdowns. He finished with over 2,800 yards receiving, 31 touchdowns, almost 200 catches at 5'8", 160.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not like he was on a roster with no other options. He was competing for those catches and those carries and those. So to get those numbers in that situation was pretty great.
And then if you want to add a decent high school career in addition to being on football teams where you're winning 11 games, 12 games when you're a freshman and on the basketball team, you just win a state championship. That's all.
Yeah, that's it. Not too much. That year was fun. That's probably my funnest year in sports, honestly, because we just had a feeling in the community and the older guys on the team, Jockey Brown, Sam Johnson, Ty Simmons. You just kind of knew what we were destined to do. I still remember being at the Carmichael in Chapel Hill and going into the fourth quarter against Winston-Salem Prep. They started playing Turn Down for What, which was our song, that whole year and the year before. And it was just kind of, the universe telling us we're about to win the game. So I remember that vividly, and I still look at my ring from time to time.
Well, we're running out of time, but I do want to say, again, obviously, welcome to the team, and we're so happy to have you here at the News Times. I know it's not the only thing you're doing right now. Yeah. Can you tell us briefly what else it is you're working on right now?
Yeah, so I'm doing some sideline reporting and hosting some shows for ECU sports properties, Playfly. So I'll be traveling with the team this year, ECU football, just going to games, talking to coach during halftime and pregame, postgame. So I'm really excited for that, and I'm excited to get to the Big House on September 2nd and 110,000. So that should be an experience.
Nice, man. We're happy to have you with us. People out going to football games, basketball games, watching Carteret County sports is going to see a familiar face on the sidelines. Working for the News Times. Thanks for joining us.
Appreciate it.
In 1959, you could buy a new house on the coast for about $12,000, a new car for $2,000, and fill it up with gas for only 25 cents a gallon. Everyone was cruising the beach, listening to the Platters, the Coasters, and a young guy named Elvis. And when it was time to eat, they all ended up at L's Drive-In in Morehead City. For over 60 years, L's has been serving up our world-famous super burgers, shrimp burgers, oyster burgers, and our mouth-watering fried chicken and barbecue. This coastal tradition of great food and friendly and fun customer service means L's is proud to be serving our third generation of regulars. And we're not done yet. Drive in and pick your spot under the old oak trees, next to the hospital in Morehead City. Then prepare your taste buds for a coastal tradition like no other, providing the best food, service, and atmosphere in Morehead City since 1959. L's Drive-In, next to the hospital in Morehead City.
All right, we're going to transition from Maceo Donald, football player, to high school football, where Maceo shined for many years at East Carteret. And we're going to do a little predicting.
Yeah, we talked about it last week, some of the conference stuff, but I think it would be fun to go kind of game by game and get an idea about where these teams might end up this year based on what we've seen so far. And there's a lot of variables. Who's starting quarterback at East Carteret? We have no idea. Who is going to be the running back that takes control over at Croatan? We have no idea.
And if Andrew Gurley and B.J. Frazier and David and Daniel Barrow and the players and assistant coaches and trainers and fans at any of these schools want to be mad at us based on these predictions, I'm just going to blame Zach because he's the one who wanted to do this.
You can text me at 25. No, I'm just kidding.
All right, let's start with the Patriots. They are back-to-back conference champions from the 3A Coastal Conference. They're going to be going for 3 in a row. They've never won 2 in a row in school history, so they've already made history. So they're now going to go for 3 in a row, and they start off in week 1 with a bye.
That is so weird to me. I mean, you look at it, and they are not going to have a break at any point this season.
Although the journalist Emmy is a little persnickety about that. It's not a bye. It's not a tournament.
Well, okay.
But
It's an open week.
Everybody says that, though.
It's an open
Everybody
week.
says bye.
Whereas I think last year, all 3 schools.
You predict a win or a loss in that game?
I think it's a loss.
Yeah.
Because
okay.
I think it's the wrong time of year to be taking a break. But, these schedules, they have to take what they get.
Yeah.
And that's what was available to them.
And actually, they were going to play 9 games this year because they didn't have a team for week 3, and they just added E.E. Smith.
Well, bless their hearts. That's
Yeah.
going to be that's a nice addition for them.
All right, so Patriots start off really in week 2 with their opener against a North Brunswick team who has one of the best mascots or team names in the state, the Scorpions.
It's a great name.
There's no other team, college, pro, that I can think of that's the Scorpions.
No, and it just so happens that team also has the best returning record of any other team on their schedule this year.
11-2 last year.
I'm going to go ahead and put that down as an L for the Patriots.
When I started the paper, they were in the same conference, oddly enough, it feels weird now, as Croatan, and that school is loaded with athletes.
Yeah, the Coastal 8.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Oh, you're talking about way back.
Way
Way back when.
way
Well, they were
back.
also in the Coastal 8, I believe.
And so
No, the East Central. I'm sorry.
yeah, the old East.
That's right.
The old ECC.
That's
and,
right.
Yeah, they've won state championships in track and field. They've got a good track and field program. You got athletes at the school, and they've won a lot of state championships in track and field. So yeah, that Patriots start off the season with a loss.
Yeah, I think that's a tough one for them.
Okay. Then E.E. Smith, who went 1-9 last year.
I think that's fair enough to say that's a W.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I went to E.E. Smith and covered a playoff game for
Did
West
you?
Carteret.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. West did not come out with a W that night, but we're going to say they're going to come out with a W that one. Week 4, the old Cardinal rivalry. Jacksonville went 7-5 last year. They've graduated some key talent. West has lost the last 2 in that series.
Yeah, the last time they won was spring 2021 during that pandemic-shortened season.
Yeah.
Me personally, I'm looking at it. It's Jacksonville. West Carteret has lost some people. I'm looking at that as a loss.
Okay.
That's what I've got that down as.
I'm going to give it a W.
You go right ahead.
How about them apples? Week 5, the Mullet Bucket.
Oh,
The
goodness.
Mariners, the granddaddy of them all in Carteret County High School football.
And we'll probably do a deeper dive into that game before that week.
Yeah, for sure.
But just looking at it right off the surface, East Carteret's defense decimated in the offseason. I think it's going to go West.
Yeah, that was a great game last year. One of the best Mullet Buckets, I think, in the history of the rivalry. But most of that defense is going from East Carteret. And that was what really kept them in that game and had them within a point of a win, and they lost 14-13. So, yeah, we'll get the Patriots a W in that one.
Next week, week 6, North Pitt, coming off a 4-7 season. I think this is where West starts to really roll. I think
Schedule sets up for them, right?
Yeah. They go from here to Dixon and went 0-10 last year. I think both those games are going to be wins. Those are both on the road, but fairly straightforward games.
I concur with your analysis.
Then we start the conference, and they started off with a big one. They started off with the 2 other teams that they tied with the conference championship last year. So they start with White Oak. White Oak coming off a 7-3 season. West did beat them last year, but White Oak loses its top running back and one of the top players in the conference last year.
Yeah, he's pretty much the guy that beat them. West, that was one of those Murphy Law games where everything went wrong that could have gone wrong, just bad bounces, fumbles, penalties, you name it.
I think like Jacksonville, this is another 50-50 game where
Yeah.
it could go either way.
I'm going to go with the Vikings.
Okay. So I gave them a loss to Jacksonville. I'm going to give them a win here.
Okay.
Against the Vikings.
Is that our first disagreement? No, Jacksonville is a
Yep.
disagreement.
So we just basically trade off there.
Jacksonville and White Oak.
Yeah, that's fine.
And then they go to Richlands. They bring back just about the entire team from a team that won the conference championship. White Oak also won the conference championship. It was a 3-way tie. Everybody finished with 1 loss in the conference. So them, West, and White Oak are again, probably the favorites to compete.
Yeah, and Richlands was a ground and pound team, and I think West does pretty well against that with their passing offense. I've got them at a W. Oh, I've got them at a loss there, don't I?
Ooh, you think
Interesting.
the Wildcats are going to take that one?
You know what? I wrote that down last night, and I'm looking at that here.
Yeah. Now you're changing your mind?
I think it was because I wanted to give them a sort of a wild card loss in conference play, and that was the one I picked. Well, folks, I've got it written down. I'm going to stick with it.
Oh, well, you can change if you want to.
You know what? I'm going to stick with my principles here.
Right. I'm going to
say West Carteret loses to Richlands.
I'm going to go with a W.
Okay.
And then they'll finish off with a couple of rivalry games. Swansboro, which went 2-8 last year. Croatan, which went 4-7 last year.
Yeah. What do you got for those games?
I'm going to give them a W in both those games.
Yeah, I think the same. And, who knows what happens with Croatan. There's so many unanswered questions with them right now with their personnel and how they're going to look. Are they going to throw the ball more with Coleman Davis, Easton Taylor? Are they going to run the ball? Who's getting the lion's share of those carries? We'll see. That could certainly change. Swansboro, they've got another quarterback. I just don't. They've got too many missing pieces from last year. We'll see. I got them down as wins for both of those as well.
So Zach Nally has the Patriots at 7-3 this year.
I do.
I have them at 8-2.
Either way, those are great seasons.
Yeah. And we both have them with one loss in the conference. Me to White Oak, you to Richlands.
That's right.
So maybe another conference championship.
It would be pretty cool to see them win 3 in a row.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the Cougars. They start off this Friday versus a Washington team that went 3-7 last year. They met in the 2021 second-round playoffs, which was really 2020. They played football in the spring that year.
Yeah.
Due to the pandemic. That's always weird. Washington's historically a really good program, but they've had a couple of rough years. Well, a rough year last year, 3-7. So it's hard to tell.
I don't think they bring back everybody either. So it's not like it's a group that's moving up and getting way better. So I think Croatan walks away with that one.
I think we both got them with W's.
Yeah. Following week they're going to be at Pamlico, coming off a 3-8 season. It's a 1A, 2A school. Are they 1A or they're 2A?
1A.
Yeah, they're 1A. I just think Croatan's personnel and the way they play, it usually does well against a team like that.
I agree.
So that's 2-0 there for a start for the Cougars. This is when I think things start to get a little bit wonky for them. They're going to be playing at East Carteret. East coming off 7-4 season, but they lost that entire defense.
And the defensive players for East Carteret are going to have our we're giving them some bulletin board material, aren't we?
Well, look, a lot of them are most of them are going to be brand new starters,
Yeah.
so they'll have a chance to prove themselves. What do you think about that Croatan at East game?
I think I will go with the Cougars only because, man, that offense, when they got it going and they're coming at you and coming at you and coming at you for 4 quarters, especially that's week 3. Heat and humidity will still be a factor at that point.
That's right.
Got those heavy guys for Croatan leaning on you for 4 quarters, coming at you straight. That can wear you down.
It's a 50-50 game for me.
Yeah.
And I think I'm going to give it to home field advantage here.
Yeah.
So we're going to split here.
Okay.
You're giving it to the Cougars. I'm giving it to the Mariners.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. I think it'll be a good game.
Yeah. Week 4 at home against East Duplin. That will not be a good game.
That's a 15-1 team.
Yeah, and no disrespect to the Cougars, but that's a very, very, very good East Duplin team.
Absolutely.
So I don't see that going in their direction.
Yeah.
That's a loss there for what I'm seeing. Week 5, they're going to go on the road to Bedingfield, coming off a 5-6 season. Bedingfield did graduate its top running back. So what do you think?
I'll go with the Bedingfield on that one. That's usually a pretty good program.
Okay, I'm going with Croatan here.
Okay. Couple more disagreements.
Hey, this is what it's about, folks. Yeah. No one knows.
Week 6, they're open. Week 7, they go to White Oak. White Oak, who really was tough in conference, but man, Croatan went toe-to-toe with them last year. It was a 6-point difference. White Oak won 2014.
Yeah, that's been the case for the last few games between those programs. And I think with White Oak losing their top running back and Croatan being the consistent rushing team that they've been, I'm going to go with Croatan here.
Okay, I'm going to go with the Vikings. I think I'm big on the Piney Green squad this year.
There you go. Week 8 versus Richlands. Boy, I know that Croatan's got this game circled on their calendar. This was a game last year where I thought it was going to be 7-6,
right.
14-10.
We hyped that up a little bit.
Richlands comes out and beats Croatan 30-0. I know they've got it circled. I just think whatever Richlands has got going and with their recipe is working against Croatan. They had lost the previous 4 straight games against Croatan, but 2 of those games were decided by 2 points. I think it's going to be another close game this year, and I'm giving this one to Richlands.
Yeah, I think I'll go with the Wildcats in that one too. Then a big rivalry game for Croatan. They'll go to Swansboro I think we both think that's a W for the Cougars.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
0-10 team from last year, Dixon.
Another win.
Yeah. And then the second biggest game in the county.
Yeah, I mean, you think if I'm looking at it here, I've got Croatan with a 1 loss in the conference, and I've got West with 1 loss in the conference. This could come down to, this has happened once before.
Yeah.
Where it comes down to the last game against these two teams. If I'm looking at personnel as I know it right now, I've got to give it to West.
That's the cool thing about the two of the 3 county schools being in the same conference is a lot of these seasons are coming down, and that's the regular season finale in a lot of sports. West and Croatan, they set it up like that, thankfully, and that could be a thing where they both go into this game with 1 loss in conference.
What's your prediction?
Yeah, I think West is probably just a little bit better.
Yeah, and who knows between now and then, personnel and what Croatan's going to look like. But for right now, I've got Croatan finishing 6-4. Where do you have them?
Which would be a 2-game improvement.
Over 4-7, yeah, or 4-6 from the regular season, yeah.
And I've got them 5-5.
Okay.
So we both have them being a better team, and I think we both agree that we think Croatan is going to be much better this year. The record might not show it as much as the talent or the team does.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, we'll take a quick break and we'll come back and talk East Carteret.
It's all about the kids this Saturday, August 19th at Carteret County Speedway. Racing in 6 divisions from late models to junior mini cups. Kids, bring your bikes and helmets to compete in the kids' bike races and Power Wheel push cars. Tickets just $15. Kids 10 and under, free. Military discount with proper ID. VIP seats, trackside spots, camping, and Moonshiners Restaurant. All at Carteret County Speedway. Kids Night this Saturday. Green flag drops at 6. Details on Facebook and tickets at CarteretSpeedway.com.
This is Daniel Barrow, the head football coach of the West Carteret Patriots, and you're listening to the Paper Boys podcast.
All right, we're back talking about the Mariners. They begin week 1 with a toughie. White Oak, which was, again, 7-3 last year overall, tied for the Coastal Conference Championship, bring back a lot.
Yeah, and I it's funny that I'm looking at their non-conference schedule, East Carteret, and there's not a lot of toughies on there, but this is one.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and mark this down as a loss for the Mariners.
Vikings won that game last year by about 40.
Yeah.
So we'll go with the Vikings on that one.
Yeah.
Played an Ashley team in week 2 that went 1-9 last year. I think we both got that as a W.
Yeah.
Although Wilmington school.
Yeah, but it's at home.
Yeah.
And I just don't. There's not a jump from 1-9 to what? I mean, I've never seen a huge jump like that. So I think it's safe to say.
I don't know, I think that might be closer than we think it's going to be.
Well, you've heard it here first, folks.
Week 3 at Croatan, we've already covered that. You think the Mariners win that one?
I think it's just going to give it to home field advantage for them.
Okay. I think the Mariners lose that one. North Lenoir team in week 4 that went 1-9 last year.
Another 1-9 team.
Yeah, 2 1-9s.
I think we'll go ahead and give this one to the East.
That could be scary, though. A couple years ago, they put North Lenoir on the schedule thinking that, we could take North Lenoir, and North Lenoir had the greatest year in North Lenoir history. I think they won like 7 games that year. They beat East. They beat a lot of teams that year. Hopefully that's not a reoccurrence of that deal.
Yeah, well, hopefully, again, we're just going off these old
Right,
records and what kind of returning, stat contributors are coming back. And based on what I've seen, I'm going to give that one to East myself.
We'll both give them a W in that one.
So I have them, we got week 5. They're going to be at West for the Mullet Bucket.
We both said that would be a Patriots
That's
win.
a Patriots, yeah. So I got them coming out of non-conference at 3-2.
Week 6, they'll have an open, and then they'll start their Coastal Plains Conference, which East was the champs of last year, and it wasn't even close. They went 5-0. The only close game was Northside Pinetown, which was 29-22. That was one of our games of the year in the county for our end-of-year review. Pinetown has won the conference on a number of occasions. They are usually very talented. That might be a 50-50 game.
Yeah, and I looked up. They don't do stats, so it's hard to find out who's back and who's not. If I'm Northside Pinetown, I've got that game circled on my calendar, and it's at home. I think it goes reverse this year.
I'm sure there's a revenge factor for them in that game, 100%.
Yeah. So I've got Northside winning that game.
And both B.J. Frazier and Coach Boyd at Northside will be on the East-West roster.
Oh, wow. That's
All-star.
super fun.
How about that?
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the revenge factor is also, that's a key deal. I think I agree with you on that one. I'll give the Panthers win in that one. Week 8, they play a Jones Senior team that has just struggled for a few years now. They went 1-10 last year. We think that's a Mariners win.
Yeah, it's like a Dixon over the Coastal. It's just,
Week 9, a Pamlico team that in years past has had some really good teams and made some deep playoffs runs. They've struggled for a few years now.
Yeah, those have been some good games historically.
Yeah.
But they're coming off a 3-8 season. It's at home. I'm going to give it to East.
I think we both think that's a W. Week 10, they go to Southside. Southside was 8-4 last year, really good, but they lost a quarterback, some of their top rushers. East won that one pretty handily last year. I think we'll both give that one to the Mariners.
Yeah, I think I've got them winning and it's on the road, but I think that's going to be a win.
And then they finished at Lejeune, who went 0-11.
Bless their hearts.
Yeah, the Pups have had some rough years for a long time now. So we both have East beginning conference with a loss and then rattling off 4 in a row.
Yep.
So 4-1, that means they'd finish behind Northside Pinetown, who we're assuming is going to go 5-0 in conference.
Right.
So really, that's the first conference game of the year for East Carteret is,
and very similar to last year.
for all intents and purposes, the conference championship.
Yeah, I mean, you look at last year, they won that game very close and then rattled off massive 40-point wins.
Right.
Yeah.
So that'll tell us a lot about the conference race.
Yeah.
Week 1.
Yeah. So I think we got them both finishing 7-3.
I've got them 6-4.
Okay, there you go.
So still,
I've been a little kinder to our
well,
to our 2A programs.
Yeah,
Or
you
no,
have.
I guess Crotan's 3A.
you have by 1 game, and I was just kinder to West by 1 game. So we're 1 game difference on all 3.
Okay, well, you know what?
Yeah.
That's what we're here for. We're here to give you controversy.
Yeah, and if I think if West goes 8-2, which my prediction, they'd be thrilled. If they went 7-3 by yours, I think they'd just be mildly happy.
Well, the problem is when you have this level of success, we've seen this like with the Morehead City Marlins. When you win so much in a row, the expectations keep going up. They don't reset every year where you're like, wow, they've another winning season. Congratulations. No, it's expected now at this point. And you go back to that championship 2 years ago when, I mean, first time in 60 years, 50 years, whatever it was, and it was just incredible. And now I think it's more expected. But that's also, the conference that they have right now, which was set up for that purpose, to give these non-Havelock, non-Northside, non-Jacksonville, teams a chance to win.
Wide open.
Yeah.
You had Croatan at 6-4. I had it 5-5. I haven't talked to anybody about what the number should be, but I would think they would want to go 6 or 7 wins this year. I think they feel like that'd be a good bounce back from back-to-back 4 and 7 seasons.
Yeah.
So I think we're both under probably what they would like. I think they'd like to go 7-3.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
And there could be there's a couple games in there. That East Carteret game, if that goes their way, I've got them at 7-3. Richlands, if they win both those games, they're looking at 8-2. So,
and then East, you've got them 7-3. I've got them 6-4. Considering the personnel losses, I would think that'd be a successful season.
100%.
Either record.
100%. But I also think that non-conference schedule is set up for them to build some confidence early in the season.
Yeah. Let's talk about some of our top players. Last year, Keegan Callahan was our News Times Player of the Year. He was the most dominant 2A player. He was a beast at middle linebacker. He was their go-to running back and wide receiver. You talked to Daniel Barrow over there at West Carteret, and he's going to have an even bigger year on offense. He's going to be their, big-time guy, quarterback on defense. So he's definitely in the running for the News Times Player of the Year to go back-to-back.
Yeah, I think he's going to have another great year. That playoff county or that playoff game last year, Gates County? Vance County. That was a tough game for West. Vance was big, and I will never forget that Keegan looked like a man among boys out there. He was big time. I know his stats may not show it, but every time you go one-on-one in a matchup with these guys, he was winning it or he was right there with them.
Yeah, one of the most impressive performances I saw last year was him and Braden Stevens just hitting each other in the hole, helmet to helmet, play after play after play. 2 grown men hitting each other.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Yeah. If he's got any rival for a Player of the Year this year, is probably on his own team. The guy might be handling the ball or throwing in the ball, and that would be Jalen Hewitt, who threw for about 2,300 yards last year and 23 touchdowns, and is looking to, as you mentioned with Daniel Barrow last week when we did our high school preview, that sophomore to junior leap is usually the biggest leap of any time you're in high school.
Yeah, I mean, you got to imagine he gets rid of some of those interceptions, which would have been yardage had they not gone the other way. You think he goes for over 3,000?
Yeah, I think if he stays healthy,
yeah,
he goes over 3,000.
Yeah.
Which is in high schools, that's a big number.
That's pretty big, yeah.
I think maybe a third, or if those guys are tied, or 1A, 1B for Player of the Year, number 3 might be Antonio Bryant.
Yeah, I think that's the other big one.
East Carteret,
yeah,
Shamel Baker,
and Charles Mathika.
Yeah,
and I think we not knowing who's going to be the quarterback yet. I think he's going to get a lot of carries, and he's going to get a lot of attention.
Frazier, I think, is mentioned that they want to be more of a running team.
Yeah, I wouldn't be. I mean, he's certainly going to go over 1,000.
Yeah.
Could he potentially get over 1,500, get close to that 2,000 range? I mean, you never know.
Who else are you looking at for a possible player of the year? Players that are definitely going to make be in News Times headlines, have their photo in the paper week after week after week.
Yeah, it's tough.
A little bit of a drop off after that, you think?
Yeah, I think those are
that's tier one.
Yeah, I think those are the main pieces.
Yeah.
Especially because Keegan can get it done on defense as well.
Yeah.
That's huge. I mean, last year he had 123 tackles, 4 interceptions. That's from a linebacker. That's real. That's money.
I'll throw it out there for you. Josiah Jones at West Carteret.
Yeah, he had 4 picks last year. Does he do anything on offense?
Yeah, this year I think there's a much bigger role for him.
He's going to be a receiver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that they're expecting some big things out of him.
Because they lost what they lost receiving wise last year.
Top 2 wide receivers.
Adam Cummings, Justice Deal.
Yes.
I think that there's going to be options. There's going to be opportunities for people to come in like Josiah Jones, like a Sean Cartwright. I like Lamar Teal. Lamar Teal is one of those people that is all over the place. You know, we're oftentimes watching the game through the camera lens, and certain people just are always in the frame. And I think Lamar Teal is number one. I think he was somebody who is always there. Offense
does a little bit of everything.
Yeah, he caught the ball, he ran the ball, he's out there on defense.
Right.
So I wouldn't be shocked if he has a monster year as well.
Somebody's got to have the yards for Croatan.
Yeah, I mean, right now the 2 runners are going to be Josh Steffi and Tony Benz, and I wonder if there's going to be a little bit. I'm a Panthers guy, so I wonder if there's going to be a little bit of a D'Angelo Williams, Jonathan Stewart vibe.
Thunder
here.
and lightning.
Yeah, I think there's going to be somebody that's going to hit the hole and run straight forward and score touchdowns. That's Tony Benz. I think Josh Steffi is going to be a little bit more coast to coast.
How about this dark horse candidate for you, Nate Bowl?
Nate Bull as a player of the year.
He can put up some big numbers on defense this year.
So that's the thing, is he's got monster numbers on defense, and if that Croatan team as a unit can perform, then those numbers are only going to be more impressive. He did try out for quarterback last year, but it didn't. You know, they went a different direction with Coleman Davis and Easton Taylor. So I don't. You know, for me, when I look at players of the year, unless they are absolutely dominant on defense, I am usually looking at a 2-way player
for sure,
or somebody at a position like a running back and quarterback.
And Josh Steffi will be probably their top 2-way guy. He'll be big on
Yeah,
defense
that's somebody
too.
I think where he runs the ball and he's great on defense. If you ask Andrew Gurley, he would say Max Cardona would be on the list as well, and there's no doubt that he has been impressive when he's been out there. So those are all people that I would expect will play a big role. We didn't mention 2 defenders here for West Carteret as well. Nick Anderson and Cutler Newman. Those are both guys that produced last year that should do the same thing as this year. And for West Carteret on the offensive
we
side.
apologize to the big guys up front, both on the offensive and defensive lines. They're not getting a lot of love right now. But,
no, and it's so hard to quantify their contribution numbers-wise, but they play a huge role, and we're going to make it up to you guys at some point. I promise. We're going to have a whole session where we talk about the offensive and defensive linemen that play big roles.
One whole segment.
That's right.
That's right. Gotta show the big guys love too. All right, thanks for joining us. That'll do it for us this week.